Good morning, kids. We are here to focus on Lesson 2 in our Module 1 workbook today. And before we start, I want to give a little mini lesson on what we're supposed to be focused on here. What you're going to be doing today is making that connection between multiplying or multiplication and array models. So the key word that we're looking at today is this one here, arrays. Arrays are made of rows and columns. Okay, so I created an array down here. You've probably seen them before, but basically any rectangular shape that's made out of items that are arranged in orderly rows and columns. So the rows are horizontal or side to side. So each of these in this each of these rows in this array has 5 bunnies in it, and there are 2 rows. So 1 row and 2 rows. So each row has 5 bunnies. Now, the columns are vertical or up and down. So we've got a column of 2, another column of 2 bunnies, another column of 2 bunnies here, another column of 2 bunnies, and our 5th column of 2 bunnies. So we've got 1 column, 2 columns, 3 columns, 4 columns, and 5 columns. So this array has 5 columns, and each column has 2 bunnies in it. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. So what we can do is we can relate this model to be very useful for us in creating multiplication problems. And we also can, the arrays help illustrate something called the commutative property, which we'll talk about throughout the school year. Basically what it means is the order of the factors doesn't really make a difference when you're multiplying. You end up with the same product regardless of the order of the factors. That's called the commutative property. So here we've got 2 rows of 5 equal 10, or 2 times 5 equals 10, or 2 groups of 5 items equals 10 items. And then if we just flip it down here, we've got 5 columns of 2 bunnies equals 10 bunnies, or 5 times 2 equals 10. So if we were skip counting here, we could just say 5, 10 if we were counting by the rows. Or we could say 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 if we were counting by twos. So for your assignment today, you're going to be working on Lesson 2 problem set. And this is 3rd grade, and we are in the first module here. So you're going to be working on Lesson 2 problem set. And they give you a variety of prompts to help you understand that arrays are related to multiplication. So we start with these directions. Use the arrays below to answer each set of questions. Okay, so here we've got an array of cars. Here we have an array of what looks like maybe tomatoes. They call them objects. Um, Objects is just another word for things. Here we have an array of spoons in number 3. And in number 4, we've got an array of triangles. So in each problem, it looks like they're asking you similar questions, but maybe not the same question. And since it's the beginning of 3rd grade, I'm still going to be helping you with the reading. But like I said yesterday, the reading is eventually going to have to be on you. So you're going to have to work on making sure you can read and understand the problems on your own. But for now, I and anyone else you ask for help should be able to help you read the words. And please ask for help. That's one of the biggest tools that you have in your tool belt is when you don't understand something, it's best to ask for help. So here, A, how many rows of cars are there? Well, let's remember the rows are side to side. So how many side to side rows are there? So I see 1 row, 2 rows, 3 rows, 4 rows. Okay, so how many rows of cars are there? There are 4 rows of cars. And then in item B, how many cars are there in each row? Okay, so it's not asking you about columns at all. It's only asking you about rows. How many cars are there in each row? Well, in the first row, I see 1, 2. In the second row, I see 1, 2. In the third row, I see 1, 2. In the fourth row, I see 1, 2. So how many cars are there in each row? 2. There are 2 cars in each row. And so basically you go through the same process for number 2. It's asking you about rows again. Um, and they kind of mix up the words a little bit once you get down to number 3. So they tell you how many are in each row, and then they ask you how many spoons are in 2 rows. So they're saying in this row and this row, how many spoons are there? And then it asks you to write a multiplication expression to describe the array. Okay, expression, we didn't cover that in the lesson yesterday. When we're talking about the word expression, it's basically just like an equation, except it doesn't have an equal sign. So it's not going to be a balanced equation where you've got something on the left that is the same thing as something on the right of an equal sign. An expression is just a mathematical phrase that describes a problem or a situation. So here we've got write a multiplication expression to describe the array. So we're using math symbols and numbers to describe this array. Well, there are 2 expressions that you could write. One would be the rows times the items in the column. I'm sorry, in the row. So you could say there are 2 rows of 4, which would be 2 times 4. If you're writing an expression, you wouldn't say equals 8. You would just write 2 times 4. The same goes for if you were writing it describing the columns. You could say there are 4 columns, 4 groups of 2. So you could say 4 times 2. But if you were writing an expression, you would not write the solution on the other side of the equation. You would simply write 4 times 2. They ask you a similar question in number 4 related to the triangles. There are 5 rows of triangles. How many triangles are in each row? And write a multiplication expression to describe the total number of triangles. Remember, an expression does not have an equal sign. If you do have trouble reading, make sure you pause and start the video as I went through the problems. I'm pretty sure I read all of them. I don't think I read number 2, so I'll go ahead and read it for you now. What is the number of rows? And B is what is the number of objects in each row? Moving on to the next page, and unfortunately I do not have the same workbook as you. I believe that this would be page 5 and then this would be page 6, but sometimes they sneak in a blank page and um, it gets my numbering off a little bit. If I had the actual workbook that you had, I could tell you exactly what page that you're on, but I think this is probably page 6. The important thing is you're doing lesson 2 problem set here at the top, and it starts with item number 5 here. So here we've got the dots below show 2 groups of 5. So here we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in the top group, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in the bottom group. So for A, redraw the dots as an array that shows 2 rows of 5. Okay, redraw means draw again. Anytime you see this prefix re at the front of a word, that means do it again. Okay, so draw again, redraw the dots as an array that shows 2 rows of 5. Okay, so you're going to have 2 horizontal or side to side rows of dots. So 1 and then 2, and then each row is going to have 5 dots in it. And then it says compare the drawing to your array. Write at least one reason why they are the same and one reason why they are different. So you're just comparing the drawing that you did here and to the way that they did the groupings of the dots. So there are a lot of different things you could say here about how they're the same and how they're different. I'll leave that up to you for how you decide to answer that problem. And in the last couple of problems, they give us some word problems. And today we're going to look at, in our mini lesson, a read, draw, write process where we read through the problem, and as we go back to the problem, we draw images that help describe the problem and write what we know, like write words or um, equations or labels that help us visualize the problem, and then from the drawings and writing that we do, we work on solving the problem. So Emma collects rocks. She arranges them in 4 rows of 3. Draw Emma's array to show how many rocks she has altogether. Then write a multiplication equation to describe the array. Okay, so now it's asking you for an equation. An equation is where you have both the multiplication statement and the equal sign and the solution to that multiplication statement. So um, we've got it. I always like to reread to make sure that I understand everything that's going on. So when we reread, I always stop and think at the periods. I think that's a good spot to stop and think about what the sentence means. And sometimes we have to stop in the middle of a sentence if the sentence is really long. Um, Emma collects rocks. Okay, so um, I think that the idea here is the rocks are going to be our array. And one of the things, if we were in the classroom, I would be encouraging you to, no matter what the object is, um, turn it into a circle. Because circles are quick and easy and they represent anything. You can use a circle to represent anything. So um, when you do your drawing, I wouldn't spend any time detailing the rocks. I'd be focused on getting a mathematical model drawn so that I'm not wasting my time on other aspects like tiny little features in your drawings. Now, if this were art class or if this was a pleasure drawing, something you were doing just for fun, then you could spend as much time as you want detailing the rocks, putting shadows and shades and things like that. But for mathematical purposes, simplicity is a good idea. So I would recommend doing circles as you're drawing. Okay, so now Emma. Emma collects rocks. She arranges them. Arranges means put them in an order. So she arranges them in 4 rows of 3. Okay, so 4 rows. 1, 2, 3, 4. So the rows are stacked on top of each other, and each row has 3 rocks in it. I would use circles. So now in the read, draw, write process, we have something now we can draw. So I would recommend going ahead and drawing this, even though in the very next sentence it tells us to go ahead and do that. Draw Emma's array to show how many rocks she has altogether. Then write a multiplication equation to describe the array. So they're kind of leading you through the read, draw, write process with the verbs that they're giving you. So the verbs are the actions that they're asking you to do. Draw. They're asking you to draw. Okay. And then the next thing, they're asking you to write. So they're telling you to do two things: draw a picture